All right, here we go. Happy Friday, Knicks Nation. NBA Report, CP the Fanchise here. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. On today's show, the Wemby era is here, man. Victor Wembanyama dominating the Miami Heat and leading the San Antonio Spurs to their first 5-0 start in franchise history. Best start in franchise history. We're going to dish more on the Wemby experience because we are all witness, no pun intended, to LeBron James. Plus, my guy Allen Sliwa will join us to dish on the Los Angeles Lakers and Austin Reaves making his case for an all-star campaign. And then we'll close the show with Stefan Bondy of the New York Post dishing on the New York Knicks as they take on the Chicago Bulls in a home-and-home over this weekend, man. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Happy Friday. Hope everybody is doing well. We'll wait for everybody to pile up in the room. But, hey, in the meantime, the San Antonio Spurs, ladies and gentlemen, there was only like 4 or 5 games last night in the league. But this one was the story as Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs beat the Miami Heat 107-101. Victor Wembanyama, the star in this one, as usual, he finished with 27 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 blocked shots. So for Victor Wembanyama right now, who, look, on this early MVP ladder, averaging 30 points, 14 rebounds per game, 56% from the field. Oh, and by the way, 4.8 blocked shots. The Wemby experience, you want to call him the alien, the Grim Reaper, all of that. The Wemby experience is here, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake. And this game, you know, the Spurs had a big lead in this game. Miami came back and tried to seize the momentum. But this right here was the play of the game. And ladies and gentlemen, it was absolutely sensational. Here we go. Let's run it back. And here we go. Let's watch this.
Awful jumper. Mitchell and Wembanyama, the Grim Reaper. Wemby on the other end, banks it in. Nice.
Unbelievable. I'm running it back. Here we go.
Powerful jumper. Mitchell and Wembanyama, the Grim Reaper. Wemby on the other end, banks it in. Nice.
I mean, when have we seen that? Engulfs the shot and then goes coast to coast for the lay-in. That is what you call dominance. We have not seen this level of two-way dominance in the league since Shaquille O'Neal. And listen, Giannis has had his moments of dominance, no question. I'm talking about for a young player on the rise. This is 3rd year for Wemby. We have not seen this, ladies and gentlemen. This is different. This is absolutely different on a two-way dominance. I mean, the guy has just been absolutely sensational. And the thing about Wemby, his scoring numbers, he's up from 24 points per game to 30. But defensively, forget the 4.8 blocks per game. And it did look like he took steps. I definitely thought he took 3 steps. I definitely thought he took 3 steps on that drive. I did. But it's the NBA. Nobody's calling travels anymore anyway. Right? But the thing about Wemby is this. Forget the block shots at 4.8. And what makes him so dominant, he doesn't even have to block the shot. His physical presence alone, just being present, is enough to destroy your entire offense. He is now the eater of worlds. Unbelievable what we are watching, and every single night he's giving you another highlight to marvel at. We haven't seen that since LeBron James. But for a two-way effort, dominating, intimidating, Shaquille O'Neal. And going into this game, he was in rare form, rare company with Shaq, Patrick Ewing, and Akeem Olajuwon as the only players who amassed over 30 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, and 5 block shots in their first 4 games. You know how we like to do those useless stats, but it's still kind of interesting because he was in elite company amongst those greats, some of the greatest centers of all time. So this is what we're seeing now from Wemby and the Spurs. So they go to 5-0, their best start in franchise history. And the question about Wemby now is this. Clearly, he's in the MVP race. Clearly, he's leading the MVP race. Clearly, he's leading the Defensive Player of the Year race. But can he get most improved? That's never happened in one season. But can Victor Wembanyama do this? That would truly be a historic feat. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Most Improved Player. Now, when we look through the history of the league, there's only 2 players that have won. Nobody's won all 3 in 1 year. There's only 2 players that have won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. Okay? So it's absolutely remarkable if he can accomplish this. It would absolutely be remarkable. It would absolutely be remarkable, man. I cannot believe what we are watching here with this guy. And I correct that. There's been a few players that have won MVP and Defensive Player in the same year. Giannis did it in 2020. Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. Hakeem Olajuwon did it in 1994. But Giannis and Kevin Garnett, what I meant by the 2 players that have won all 3, even those separate years, Giannis and KG have won the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, and the Most Improved Player. Only 2 players in NBA history. Now, Most Improved Player is the trick because the question is, like if you look at the history of Most Improved Players, and I'm just pulling it up here, so to everybody in the chat. If you look at the history of Most Improved Players, Dyson Daniels, Maxey, Markkanen, Morant, Julius Randle with the Knicks in 2021, Brandon Ingram, Siakam. Like usually when you're the most improved, it typically is going to a player who is more on an all-star track with significant improvement year over year. Not necessarily all-star track, but significant improvement year over year. Some of these guys are all-stars. Some of these guys turn into superstars. As a Giannis won it in 2016-17. They turn into superstars. But Wemby right now is on a superstar level right now. So Most Improved is the tricky one. Because obviously there's a lot of guys that can be in the running for that. But right now, you could make a significant case for Victor Wembanyama to win the award. You can make a significant case, strong case for Victor to win the award. He's up. His points per game is up. He's got his Spurs team out to a 5-0 start. And should he stay healthy, because to me, health is the only thing that can derail him. Should he stay healthy, the Spurs are going to make the playoffs. They were 13th in the league They finished 13th in the West last year. They're going to make the playoffs this year. They are that good. And look, Wemby deserves all the credit, but their supporting cast right now is stepping up. Castle, Harper's been brilliant so far coming off the bench. Keldon Johnson is knocking down shots. I mean, they're getting everything that they want right now out of this team. So, look, I think it's certainly possible, man, and we are all witness to the greatness of Victor Wembanyama. Okay? Now, this was after the game. A lot of fans had fun with this. This was after the game. Spurs won, and you thought it was a championship celebration. This was after the game. Check this out. Here we go.
You guys have set a franchise record tonight. 5-0, undefeated. You guys are living the dream right now. How does that feel?
Feels incredible. This is years of work for all of us. And now finally trying to get the maturity and to get actual wins. We're not fans, so it feels great.
Amazing. You guys ready for
What's up?
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, we ready for the next one. We can't wait to be in front of the best fans in the whole wide world. Can I get a go Spurs go on 3? 1, 2, 3, go Spurs go!
Now, a lot of fans made a big deal out of this. I mean, they're saying, oh, man, these guys act like they won the championship. They clowned them like, the Pat Beverly situation when they won the play-in. Look, I'm going to go the other way on this, man. I thought this was a great moment for the Spurs. Stefan Castle met with the media, and he talked about the fact, like, yo, listen, man, I've been on this. I mean, not Stefan, Devin Vassell, rather, met with the media and said, look, man, we tired of losing. We are tired of losing. So good for them. They've been on this track now, growing pains and all, slowly developing this team with really good young talent, and especially on the defensive end. They're leading the league defensively right now, five game sample size, but they certainly have the tools to lead the league defensively when you think about their length, their athleticism, and with Wembanyama anchoring everything. I love Vassell, his defense. You got Castle out there. You got Harrison Barnes. They're tough. So there was a lot made about the celebration, but you know what? Look, man, they deserve that. They absolutely deserve it. And the one thing with Wembanyama, man, and why I think we are looking at the face of the league. He's got the charisma. He has the passion. He has the humility. Like all of those things to be the face of the league. And it's perfect timing for him. Because as we think about who LeBron is going to pass the torch to, and LeBron is out. He's trying to figure his way out. He's low managing, whatever. LeBron's done. I'm not done, but, in terms of just being the face of the league. But Wembanyama, he's got everything. He's got the two-way dominance. They're building, you can see that a contender is being built here. And just his leadership, his humility, I love it, man. I love it. He's got that eccentric personality. Remember last year they spotted him. They spotted him playing chess in Central Park with random fans. He's going to the Space Museum. He's very comfortable being who he is. I think we are looking at the face of the league. Now, some people think it could be a combination of players. There's Shea, Tatum, Luka, Giannis, those guys. But should Wemby start winning rings? This is his league. And this is the guy that the NBA can market. Look, there's a lot to be made about Shea, the MVP and all of that. He doesn't really have the personality. That's the one thing missing from these guys to be the face of the league. Ant-Man hasn't won it yet. A lot of people think Ant-Man. So it was, look at this. 40 points, 15 and 3, 29, 11 and 9, 31, 14 and 6, 24, 15 and 1. He only had one block shot in their previous win. And then 27, 18, and 5 against the Miami Heat. And look, give them credit, because Miami coming into this one was leading the league in points per game. And they pretty much shut him down in pivotal moments. Now, the question for the Spurs becomes, because right now it's looking good. And look, if you look at the record, kind of take it with you have to take it in context. They played a lot of bottom feeders in the league so far. They beat the Nets. They beat the Pelicans. Miami's pretty average. They're going to end up being an average team. They beat Dallas. They beat the Raptors. So, the quality of opponent, you got to take that into consideration. I still think the Spurs are going to be a team to deal with. But right now they're doing this without the Aaron Fox, their key acquisition last year, and their starting point guard. They're doing this without Fox. And right now, they have a balanced team. You have Castle starting. Now, his starting experiment hasn't gone as well in the point guard duty. But Harper coming off the bench, 15-5 last night. He's been brilliant. Finishing in the paint. Jumpers there. The speed. I love Dylan Harper with this team. That combo is going to be ferocious. What happens when Fox comes back? That's 35 minutes that you got to allocate that has to be peeled back from certain guys. How do you balance the Fox, Castle, Harper trio of guards? How do they manage Fox not being the best shooter on a team that's getting good shooting right now? So that is what I'm going to be watching all year with the Spurs. I'm going to be watching how do they manage with this now. It's a good problem to have to a certain degree. But how do they manage all those players and the playing time, keeping everybody happy and still maintaining their wins? And then what do they see on the horizon to get them to be a true championship team? Yes, it's great that you have all these young players and all these young talents around Wemby. I think they need to put the chips in the middle earlier because I don't know how healthy he's going to stay. You just don't know. Every time he hits the deck, I hold my breath like, oh man, hopefully he gets up. He's defying logic. He's defying science with what he's doing out there. So I just hope that he stays healthy. But the question is, what do they do with all that talent? And how do they utilize their assets, the rest of the assets that they have? Because they have assets. To make a move. And who's the guy that they go get? Are they going to go get? I keep thinking it's Giannis, man. I keep thinking if he wants to go there, I keep thinking it's Giannis. But you guys at home, let me know what you think. Well, let me tell you something, man. I have been beyond impressed, enamored with Victor Wembanyama and what he's been able to accomplish so far in this league. He's been outright brilliant. JJ in the chat says they're a wing away. Trading Fox is the move. I think so. I think Fox is ultimately the odd man out for sure. But we got to see. Because according to the reports, he could have started the season in battling the injury. So clearly he is he's on the way back. He's going to be on the way back. And for the Spurs, it's going to get a little bit interesting. As I mentioned, with their 5-0 start, they've been able to eat off a lot of bottom feeders. But it's going to get a little bit realer pretty soon. Because if we look at this, they got the Phoenix Suns on Sunday, okay? Then they're at the Lakers, and we'll talk to our special guest coming up in a second. They're at the Lakers Wednesday, November 5th. Then the Rockets, November 7th. Back-to-back with the Pelicans. That should be, well, on second night of a back-to-back, things get tricky. You never know. Plus the second time they see the Pelicans. At the Bulls, who right now are 4-0. Hopefully the Knicks knock them out twice this weekend, bring them back to size. And then the 12th and the 14th, 2 home games against Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, and the Golden State Warriors. So things are going to get very interesting for the Spurs coming up in the next week. The Fox integration, and can they maintain that defensive edge? I'm definitely going to be watching. But, yeah, man, certainly the Spurs, man, made a statement last night with the 5-0 run that they just went on. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to bring on our next guest right now. And shout out to him, man. He covers the Lakers, formerly of ESPN, but currently of his own show, man. The Sliwa Show, plus Hoops Talk. Let's go, man. Our guy, Allen Sliwa, is here, man. Allen, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
CP, what's going on, brother? Thank you for having me on, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Welcome to the show. So we got to talk about your Lakers, man, because Austin Reaves is taking over, and I just think it's so timely with his performance now because his story first emerged in the offseason when he rejected the Lakers' 4-year, $89 million deal. Now he's got a situation where LeBron's doing LeBron. Right, and we got to talk about that. Luka's been out for the last three games, and now it's his time to shine on the main stage. So talk about perfect timing for Austin Reaves, man.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, perfect timing, but I'll also throw in Reaves he's a hooper. He's trying to win, and I think maybe what kind of gets lost in the Austin Reaves front. Ever since Luka came to the Lakers, it's like, hey, will this guy fit? Does that make sense? Is there too much of the same position? Austin Reaves is honestly just kind of doing whatever it takes to win. So he can have a performance like he had against Minnesota, where he has 28 points but 16 assists. Get all these other guys going as well and kind of have more of that point guard primary role. Or he can go out in a game like he did against Sacramento and drop 51.
Yeah.
By the way, got 11 and 9 as well. I'm such a fan of his, and I think a lot of people, if you just look at his story, how he got to the Lakers, how he's making an impact, how he's played obviously with other stars, whether that was AD and LeBron or in this case now with Luka. When he gets opportunities on his own, I think he really shows how capable he is in the league. But really, if you're going to be a team that's competing for a championship, you got to do it with other superstars, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he really has. I mean, I got nothing but love for him. Unfortunately, I don't think that's always the story for him. I think people are still asking about the fit, but he's been great.
Yeah, that's my next question, because to me, when I see his performances, we've seen this last year when they didn't have LeBron. Like we've seen these periods of Austin Reaves really stepping up, especially when LeBron has been out, or previously when LeBron and AD are out, or LeBron and Luka are out, and he has to assume that role as either being the primary or the secondary guy. But the question always remains, if and when they hit what I call money time, which is the playoffs, things of that nature, high caliber, high stakes games. How do they integrate those three? What do you think?
So, I think a lot of people will look back to the series against Minnesota last year. Lakers were favorites to win that series, and then within 5 games, they started their offseason. And Austin Reaves wasn't a great story coming off the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that roster was so flawed, and if you watched any of those games – and you got a chance to see just how small the Lakers were. They didn't have size. There were times, I mean, J.D. McDaniels was saying after game 1, he's like, I was the biggest guy on the floor for some of these games. I was just going straight to the basket. Nobody was going to stop me. I think that roster was so flawed. I have a difficult time trying to address what they were last postseason. I think what they're going to become this postseason. I'm not worried about Reaves. He didn't have the best of playoff series, but I think there is a way to integrate all of them. I think you know this better than anyone else, is that you got to have as much talent as you possibly can and then figure out how all the pieces mix. But you want to have talent. You want to have guys that understand how to play the game properly. Will there be some times where it makes more sense not to have Reaves and Luka on the floor at the same time? Sure. I think there's a strategy to stagger minutes. But if you said, hey, the best 5 to close out a game, like you said, in winning time and playoff time, Austin Reaves got to be on the floor with some of these other players, and that also means other teams have to figure out how to stop the Lakers.
What do you think has been his biggest improvement, biggest leap over, say the last year? What do you think has been the biggest leap for him?
I think people don't understand that he can play a point guard role, and I think that he can run an offense, he can facilitate. He doesn't have to just be kind of a one-dimensional player on offense where it's like, well, I can only get mine. He's setting up guys. If we're just looking at this season, I know it's a really short sample size, but setting up guys like Ayton or Jake LaRavia or Dalton Connect or Rui Hachimura, some of these other players they have on the squad. I think to me what's an underrated piece of his game, he's got some point guard in him. And point guards aren't just go get a bucket. The traditional point guards that I grew up watching, they're making everybody on the floor. They're making everybody on the floor better, and I think he has a little bit of that. So I think his improvement, his biggest jump, is I can go get 10 assists a game and it comes natural. I'm not forcing it and still be an offensive threat.
True indeed. Well said, man. And so, obviously we got to talk about the elephant in the room because Luka Doncic should be expected back fairly shortly. What about LeBron James? What's the status of LeBron James? And where do you see this whole thing just, connecting here?
Well, I think he'll probably, when the dust settles, probably end up missing the first 15 games. I think they got him in that mid-November range of when he'll eventually come back for the Lakers. I think it'll be interesting when he does come back. I mean, if you pay attention to the offseason and how it went and the fact that there wasn't this is going to be the first time, from what I can remember in LeBron's career, where there is no guarantee past this season. I'm sure he probably wasn't crazy about that. Of course, he has his value and still putting up all NBA numbers and still very, very effective, whether he's in his 23rd year or whether he's in his 15th year. I mean, LeBron is still LeBron James. The dynamics, I think, going to be interesting, but I do think once the dust settles, he's got to feel good looking at this team and saying to himself, damn, we got some players on this team. Yes, you got Luka and you got Austin Reaves. Finally, you got a center, and I'm not trying to tell you Ayton's a top 5 center in the league, but they didn't have a center last year, so that's obviously a significant improvement. So if LeBron's number one goal is I just want to compete, try to have a chance of winning an NBA championship, I think he has to at least feel, all right, there's some pieces here. And then will there maybe be some pressure on the Lakers organization to do something before the trade deadline? I'm sure there will be, but they're going to need some games to figure out what they need and what's working and what's not.
Yeah, that's true. And as you mentioned, Ayton, I mean, look, to be able to get him as a low-risk, high-reward move, I mean, it seems like he's been more than adequate for the Lakers so far. It's just a matter of, again, integrating everybody when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, he's going to look like Hakeem Olajuwon compared to what they had before. Yeah. And obviously, he's not anything near Hakeem Olajuwon, but Ayton's got a part of his game where the Lakers were desperate for him, and I think in a weird way, he was kind of desperate for the Lakers. I mean, think about this when they're healthy. They got one big man that they could really depend on, who's got some, nice touch. I always look at big men. In the NBA, you're either an athlete or a basketball player. Jackson Hayes is on the Lakers. That's an athlete. That's not necessarily I can use the glass and hit a 10-footer here and this and that. Ayton he's a big man that has basketball skills. Yeah, I can hit a floater over Rudy Gobert. Yeah, I can pick and pop. I can have a screen and roll with Luka Doncic and know where to go. So I think for him, think about when they're healthy and there's all this attention towards Luka, all this attention towards LeBron, all this attention towards Austin Reaves. I'm imagining that Ayton is just going to be a beneficiary of having all these great playmakers on the floor. He's a significant upgrade for the Lakers. And again, we're 5 games into the season. Yeah. Nobody's trying to tell you that, the Lakers are set and they don't have flaws. They will have flaws, but Ayton is a big improvement from what they had.
Man, let me tell you something. I was wondering how they were going to get through, and again, like you said, early season after the Finney Smith loss. I thought that was pretty big because he pretty much went to Houston for even money, correct? Like the Lakers could have, correct me if I'm wrong, Lakers could have paid him a little bit more, but he chose to go to the Rockets, correct?
Yeah, I think that one came down to, and I got to be honest with you, I was really surprised about that as well. They traded 3 second-rounders in D'Angelo Russell, which I was fine. I'm not a D'Lo fan. I thought FS is a perfect fit for the Lakers. But you got your kind of 3-and-D guy. Here's somebody that's played with Luka before that I know they had a really good relationship together. For them to go, here's a way I put it. They went cheaper and younger. They decided, let's go Jake LaRavia, who, kind of an unknown name. Not that many people around the league know about Jake LaRavia. Dorian Finney-Smith's a proven role player, got significant playoff experience, is kind of that enforcer that you like. Maybe part of that move was I think we're going to get Marcus Smart. Maybe we can get him in a buyout market. But they did go younger and cheaper. I was surprised as well that they didn't keep him. And we'll see if down the road that pays off or if they'll regret it.
Man, listen, you're talking about younger and cheaper. I had my eyes on Jake LaRavia the entire offseason. I was hoping. Now, look, my Knicks, they had no money to give. I was hoping among hope that, this guy could be had for $1 and a song because I love his upside, and he's another guy that's benefiting from the absence of LeBron and Luka here and there, man. I think his two-way game I'm impressed by. I love the way that he uses his size to create separation. And again, another guy who Sacramento unfortunately had to lose him. They were capped in terms of how much they can pay him. He's finding a home here with the Lakers. I like Jake LaRavia, man.
Well, he didn't get much either. I mean, he got 2 years, $12 million in today's NBA. I mean, that literally is like pennies on the dollar. It feels like, and he's got upside. Like, and that's interesting that you said that you were all off season. You were hoping, hey, can we steal this guy? You know, you're looking at it from a Knicks perspective. The fact that he did end up on the Lakers, I thought was interesting. He's got a relationship with Austin Reaves. The team has kind of gone out of their way when they talked about Ayton and Marcus Smart and these guys coming in. They're like, don't forget Jake LaRavia. Actually, I remember I was at Media Day and LeBron went out of his way to point that out. Like, hey, that was a good signing for us. He had his moment. You know, Lakers got that win a couple of days ago in Minnesota. Reaves hits the buzzer beater. Something, I don't think it was under the radar. It wasn't. Jake LaRavia had 27, was 10 of 11 from the field. And I think that was the first opportunity for him to show a little bit of his game. You know, I'm sure for players like that, when you got Luka on the floor and you got Reaves on the floor and he hasn't played with LeBron yet, you don't really know when to get yours. You're just kind of like, hey, how can I not get in the Stars' way? He didn't have a choice on Wednesday, and it was his best game as a Laker.
Yeah, certainly showed out, man. So I'm going to be watching him all year because, like I said, I think he has tremendous promise, but he was certainly outside of the Knicks price range, unfortunately. Last one for you, Lakers ownership change has been made official. Mark Walter taking over. What do you expect, or what do you expect in terms of this ownership change as it relates to the Lakers?
You know, it's interesting. I was just this morning, I was doing my show, and I was talking about how I do think it will be significant over time. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Look, I think the Buss family took over something that, you know, Dr. Jerry Buss created, in my opinion, the greatest owner in the history of sports. He created something that is so unbelievably – no one's ever going to repeat what he was able to do. They won 10 NBA championships under his watch. Yeah. They went to the NBA Finals for 15 years. I think the Lakers under the Buss family, since he passed back in 2013, I think the Buss family, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, right? They go 6 years without making the playoffs. They do win a championship in 2020. There's ups, there's downs. I think what new ownership will bring is stability. And yes, the new ownership group can't do what you can do in baseball. It's just go spend as much as you possibly want, at least on players. But what they can do is you can have the best scouting. You can have the best analytics. You can have the best coaches, assistant coaches, front office personnel. I think they're going to be able to spend in other areas that any successful business does start at the top, and it works its way down. It trickles down. I think that new ownership group will eventually prove that they will dot their I's and they will cross their T's, and I think that will have an impact on the franchise long term.
The investments on the margins, where there is no salary cap, you can spend unlimited and put the resources in areas like player development, medical staff, things of that nature, and maybe it's a practice facility, whatever it is. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Now, Mark Walter's Dodgers are on the brink. Are you a Dodger? You a Dodger guy as well?
I'm a born and raised San Diego native.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm a Padre fan.
All right, cool. So you're hating all the way. You're going with the Blue Jays. You're hating all the way.
I mean, I joke around. I'm like, you know, I have ties to Toronto. For every round I've had a tie. I'm like, you know, I'm a Bruins guy. Every round I'm just making up something.
I dig it, man. I dig it. Let the people know about your show, where they can find you, man.
All right, well, I appreciate you having me on. Hoops Talk on YouTube. Spend a lot of time talking Lakers and NBA. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific is when I'm on, and then I'm also on after Laker games reacting.
All right, there you go, man. We'll look forward to bringing you back on. Thanks for the great insight. Have a great weekend. Thanks again, man.
Thank you, CP.
All right, that was our guy, Allen Sliwa. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Good talk, man. Good talk. Shout out to Allen Sliwa, man. Salute to him, man. Make sure you guys are following him on Hoops Talk and the Allen Sliwa Show as well. Okay, we are getting ready to load up our next guest. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Happy Friday once again. Okay, let me just load up here. Hang tight. Let's get our next guest in here. Checking in from Chicago, Illinois. Okay, hang tight. There we go. Let me just fire up KFTV here. Steph, can you hear me okay? Are you there?
Yeah, can you get me?
Yep.
You got me?
I got you. I'm just going to set up your video here, and we'll be good to go. Let's make sure we are live on the KFTV side, and that we are good. Okay. All right, should we good to go here? All right, here we go, man. Salute to Knicks Nation once again. Happy Friday. Another KFTV NBA report simulcast. CP the Fanchise here, and we got the great Stefan Bondy, man, Knicks insider from the New York Post, checking in from Chicago. Steph, how you doing, man? How you feeling, bro?
Good, man. Happy Halloween, man. You got a disguise? You got something you're dressing up as?
You know what? Not this year. A couple years ago, I finessed. I found this dope adult size War Machine costume. You know, War Machine from Iron Man.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I like to be a little bit different. So I found the Rhodes costume. You know, the puff suit with the mask, with the full mask. And yeah, we flexed that. And that year, wifey came in as Captain Marvel, and we won the contest. I went to the homie's birthday party and came out with $100, man.
All right. Well, then you deserve a break this year. You did it up last year.
Yeah. Well, what's your Halloween? What was your Halloween go-to as a kid? Like, were you kind of like on the safer side, or were you throwing eggs? Were you throwing the shaving cream? What were you doing, man?
Nah, man, I was Spider-Man. Are you talking about when I was a little kid? Yeah,
Spider-Man. Like your teenager 20s, man.
Oh, yeah. Nah, I didn't dress up. I stopped dressing up.
Okay.
I wasn't a big Halloween party guy, but when I was a kid, it was Karate Kid and it was Spider-Man.
There
Those
you
are
go.
my jams.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Can't complain. All right. Well, thank God, these guys are kicking off in Chicago tonight, because the crybaby and the panic amongst the fan base 4 games in is getting a little crazy. But let's start with the injury report, because to me that's very important. Mitchell Robinson, Deuce, Yabusele, where do we stand with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, we actually just talked to Mitch. It's the first time that he talked since I guess he didn't have an injury, but since the preseason when he began this plan for load management that the Knicks are calling it. He didn't shed much light on anything. There was some joking that from Josh Hart. We also talked to Josh Hart. There was some joking that Mitch is going to play, and then he looked at PR like he shouldn't have said that. So if you want to read into that then he's going to play. But there was no outright like, all right, Mitch is going to go tonight. Don't worry about it. It was more of we'll wait and see, which has been the message all along, including yesterday from Mike Brown.
Okay. How about Deuce? Because as I watch these games, the first 2 games, I've been impressed with his two-way play, both coming off the bench, leading the bench, and as a starter. And to me, we had these conversations in the offseason, like who's going to emerge as a 6 man? Is it Clarkson? Is it Hart? Right now, I think it's Deuce. He's very important for this team right now. What are we saying?
Great. Yeah, Deuce looks great. He's going to play. He had the unfortunate situation where he had a death in the family. He had to go back to Ohio. To deal with that. And so, he's going to play today, and, he's ready to go. Chicago, he's from the area. Chicago's a place where he loves to play. Maybe he's, loses a bit of the rhythm that he had, because you're right, he was playing great, but he's definitely an important part of this team.
Now, Yabusele, it's not clear with his knee if he injured it in the Miami game, but either way, he's really struggling out the gate here these first 4 games. Any status on him?
He's probable, and he did injure it in the Miami game.
Okay.
He did go through practice yesterday. One thing I do want to push back on with Yabusele, because people are talking about he's overweight and all the.
Oh, hang on.
Saw this dude with his shirt off. I was like, this dude is not. The dude is jacked, bro. Like you talking about the Incredible Hulk, that's him. So like, I don't want to hear that he's like, he's too fat and all that stuff. That's not something I see from him.
Yeah. Have you spoken to Brown and the coaching staff, or even Yabusele himself, just in terms of his adjustment, getting acclimated? It kind of seems like it's just not coming together early right now.
Yeah, no, I can't. If we did, I can't remember. There's so many people getting adjusted. We did talk to Josh Hart about getting adjusted today, and he's right. I mean, he said this has been the hard, nobody's adjusting more than me. He went from Tibbs, playing 37 point something minutes per game. Now he's coming off the bench. He's not part of the offense as much. He's defending everybody. He's got to learn how to defend 1 through 5. So this has been a big adjustment for him. We're going to talk about the shot and, you know, the finger. I think is still definitely bothering him. That's a fact, and so that's going to be a problem until it isn't. But in terms of on the court, it's also an adjustment for him.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the finger, certainly you could see the apprehension for him to shoot. I think Jalen had mentioned it. But, I mean, finger or not, that's always kind of been a Josh thing, where he goes through these periods during the season where it's just not connecting, just his confidence in shooting. Yeah. And then the playoffs comes, and he's around like 38%. He's doing okay. So I just wonder how he makes it through the season. But one thing is clear, the combination with him and Cat has been kind of tricky. Like, I'm looking at them, especially offensively in the Milwaukee game, and a couple of times, Cat's deferring to Josh Hart to bail him out with a three. And I'm like, bro, like, we're paying you $60 million to go get that bucket. What are you giving him to him for? Who doesn't want to shoot?
Yeah, the Milwaukee game was awkward in that. This is my take on it. Cat obviously only took one field goal in the first half. The Knicks were up by 12 at halftime. Mike Brown comes out afterwards and says that's exactly what we need from Cat. He was the best player in the first half. Second half, he comes out. He's trying to force the issue. He's trying to say, I'm an all-star. I'm going to score. I think it's unreasonable for the coach, Mike Brown, to tell Cat, the role I want you in is only going to lead to one field goal attempt in a half. Like, that's not who Cat is. And if you want Cat to be a decoy, I get it worked in the first half in Milwaukee. I don't think that's the best role for him. So I think there's a give and take happening right now with Mike Brown and Cat in terms of, finding the best role for him. It's been a process. I think he's struggled early in this season for sure.
Yeah, and well, first thing, do you think the quad has anything to do with this right now? Because in the Milwaukee game, it did not look like he had much lift. Couldn't get off the ground too much. I mean, the taking off from the three-point line, it drives me crazy. He's been doing that since last year. I can't stand it. The facing up from the three-point line and taking it to the basket. But do you think the quad, it might be bothering him a little bit?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I wish I could tell you. I really have no clue how bad that quad is or how much it's impacting his game. He obviously said he had a grade 2 strain. I don't know how much that's impacting him. He's not the quickest guy in the world anyway. So, as you said, you don't like to see it when he gets the ball, on the perimeter and starts driving, and then he ends up on the court a lot of the times. That's something that was happening before he had the quad injury, but I don't know how much that's impacting him. But you figure if he does have a quad 2 strain, that certainly is hindering his ability to move.
Yeah, and one thing I don't know if you've asked Brown yet, or if you could during this Chicago series. Like, there was a graphic that came up on Twitter, and even from last year to this year, the pick and roll combos, the top 10, and Brunson and Cap are nowhere near there. So I'd like to find out. I'm just wondering, where is the two-man game between these two guys, and why, after one full year and now into this early start, do we not see that? What are we missing here in terms of the chemistry between JB and Cat?
Well, you're getting really at the heart of what's going on right now, because this is a offense that is not supposed to not rely on much on pick and roll, but it is the best weapon that this team has. And if you have Cat at the 4, there's less opportunities for pick and rolls because the center is going to set a lot of those screens. So I think in an ideal world for me, this is my opinion, Cat should be at the 5. I think that's where he's best offensively, and he should be running more pick and rolls with Jalen Brunson. Last season, and I just did an article about this, so I remember it's fresh in my mind. They were the number 1 ranked team in pick and roll efficiency, the Knicks. I think they were averaging 1 point per possession on pick and rolls. This season, it's dipped dramatically, and Cat as the roll man, his efficiency has dipped dramatically. I think when you team up Cat and you team up Jalen Brunson, the vision, and we talked about this last season, was the best pick and roll combination in the NBA. That's what we talked about. So if you're taking that out of the offense, or for whatever reason it's not as effective, I think that's a problem for the offense.
Yeah, no question. Well, in isolation, Cap has certainly looked great. His
Yeah,
efficiency is there. He's looked very good. And I think McCallus is off to a strong start as well. It just seems as though, especially I was at the watching the Bucks game, it seems as though his utilization kind of dips as the game progresses. And if Cat is struggling, I'd like to see them go to McCall a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. I mean, if you talk about a guy that should be thriving in this offense, and he has been, is Mikal Bridges and the way he plays. And you're right, though. I mean, we have a running thing on Press Row where it's like, Mikal had a great first half, but I bet you when we look at the box score at the end of the night, it'll be right around the same amount of points that he has at halftime. So yeah, that we're seeing the same thing.
Yeah. It's very interesting, but hey, so far he's trending well. Just want to see him just get that uptick in usage, especially if Cat is kind of still struggling to get adjusted. And then I mean, look, I have to think the shots are eventually going to fall. It does still seem as though when they are have good ball movement, especially in the first half of these games, the shots just aren't there and they're not falling. And then, second half, when teams turn up the pressure, turn up the defense, that's when things kind of get bogged down a little bit.
For sure. And, Mike Brown said it yesterday. We're going to have to wait a while before we make any real judgments. But, the early thing is, well, you brought in a coach to revamp the offense, and the offense went from ranked 5th in the NBA last season, and now they're 20 something. I don't even know what they now. So, the early returns don't look as good as you hope. It is only 4 games. So we do have to give this some time. We have to let it marinate. That's been the message from Mike Brown all along. I think that's true. I think it'd be unfair to say, well, this is totally a bust and we should revamp it again. I think they should try to work through a lot of these things, but I do think some tweaks to get Cat more involved and get him in places where he can succeed. I think that should be on the table.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. So now they're taking on a undefeated Bulls team that is young. They're athletic. They got guns. What do you think about tonight's matchup, man?
Josh Giddey, man. Everybody was killing that trade.
And the extension? Got the extension?
Yeah, got the extension. And now, listen, again, 4 games. But if he keeps playing like this, that extension looks very good for the Chicago Bulls. I think they have a good coach who wants to run and gun. He's shown that he's going to play that way in Chicago, and right now it's working out, even though Kobe White's hurt. This is a big test for the Knicks. It's an NBA Cup game. It's a home and home because they got Chicago in the Garden. So, yeah, I mean, the Knicks are probably faced their biggest adversity so far. They're in a 2-game losing streak. I think it's a big game for them to bounce back and a big opportunity for, some good vibes going back home.
Once again, we are talking to Stefan Bondy, Knicks insider for the New York Post. Salute everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Halloween Friday, October 31st. Knicks will be taking on the Bulls tonight, and then they will be at the Garden on Sunday in a home and home game against the Bulls. Now, in your article, or one of the articles you dropped earlier this week, Phil Jackson, new book dropping on November 4th, Mastermind, as it's called, and you dropped a couple of excerpts in your New York Post article in which Jackson throws Melo under the bus. Melo's been having a rough week, but Jackson throws Melo under the bus and blames him for his early departure from the Knicks with 2 years left on the deal. You were there during those times. What'd you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not surprising. This is something that, he obviously went into a little bit more detail in the book. And I want to make people understand this isn't a Knicks book that's coming out. This isn't recounting his time with the Knicks. This is 75 chapters of going through the greatest 75 players in the NBA history and Phil Jackson discussing each one of them. And when he gets to Carmelo, he decides to kind of dump on him, right? So that's what happened. And so, yeah, it's not surprising. I think Phil came in. He has an ego. He thinks the triangle is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He wanted to run it. Now, Carmelo could have embraced it better, I believe. He could have gave it a shot. He never really gave it a shot, despite what he might tell you. But listen, these were two guys that, what's the saying, fit a square peg in a round hole
Right.
kind of vibe. They just never fit. And so, I'm sure Carmelo will blame Phil, and Phil definitely is blaming Carmelo.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Carmelo is not blameless. Like Amari's comments earlier this week, he's not blameless. But the Phil's ego, to me, was the biggest factor in all of the failures with New York. And as you said, the book isn't about his tenure in New York, so maybe he didn't elaborate on those things. However, I mean, when we look back at some of these things, drafting Frank, Fisher, Rambis, Hornacek, and then with the whole Melo thing, which I didn't get as it was actively happening, you sign the guy to a no-trade clause in the extension. Then you're going through Charlie Rosen that takes shots at the guy through the post, and then you're trying to trade him. I mean, the logic, the ego, the arrogance, Phil, all his moves and all of his actions, his comments during that time, signal to me that this guy, one, didn't understand the business of being the president of basketball operations. Two, was just here for a bag. And three, he was just not a competent president of basketball operations. And it was a lesson to be learned in that greatness in one area of the game does not translate always to another area. Jordan showed that. Magic showed that. Phil showed that.
I can't argue with anything you just said. And listen, like I said, it wasn't an extensive look back at his Knicks period, but he coincidentally, not coincidentally, didn't bring up Joakim Noah. One of the worst signings ever. You know what I mean? So he doesn't take blame for a lot of the things that he was directly responsible for. He did mention Frank Ntilikina, but otherwise, he blamed the whole Kristaps thing on Kristaps's brother. It's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. I mean, Frank is no longer in the league. He trades Timmy for Jerry and Grant, who I liked at the time. I liked it on paper. I liked the thought process. We were starving for a point guard. Not even in the league. He trades Tyson for pennies on the dollar. Jose Calderon, Samuel Dallenberg. I don't even remember Dallenberg played more than 2 games for the Knicks, right? Shane Larkin and all of this. And then, the one I hated was trading JR and Shump for damn near nothing and then seeing them win the championship right after that. I mean, that was like a knife to the chest, man. It was crazy.
Well, I mean, it all goes back. The one move that to me, it goes back to, and listen, Scott Perry did the same thing with his draft when he drafted Kevin Knox. But when you bring in Donovan Mitchell to work out the day before the draft, you see him work out, and then you still draft Frank Ntilikina. We can rightly question your ability to judge talent from an executive position.
Unreal. The force feeding of the triangle. I mean, like you said,
Kurt Rambis stuff was bad. Bringing him in kind of as a spy, everything was it was a bad vibes all the way around. And I think it speaks to kind of what the discussion relevant now today is. Do you cater a team? Do you cater a system to the players you have, or do you build a system? Or do you impose your own system on players that may not fit it? So I think the Knicks are going through some of that stuff right now. I don't think Mike Brown is nearly as hard-headed as Phil Jackson, but maybe the same discussion is brought up later.
Absolutely right. As we circle back to present day, those are the questions that Mike Brown is going to have to answer as they try to figure things out, and they've got to come to a middle ground. Yes, you can say that, do they have? You can question whether or not they have the athleticism, the ball handling, the playmaking to really maximize this thing. And if not, then he's got to find some middle ground to make sure that he's getting the most out of these players, because quite frankly, that's why he's here. And, a lot of Knicks fans, they know my thing with Draymond Green. I think he's a piece of crap. But however, one thing I don't question, when he's hating, I call him out and I throw him in the garbage. But when he's dropping basketball knowledge, I'm not gonna. You can't argue that. He's a savant. He's got 4 rings, and I thought it raised eyebrows when he said, "I think that offense can be stifled." We're seeing it now. His comments on Cat. Forget the Dodge and Jimmy stuff. That was classless. But the other stuff, I agree with.
Okay, okay.
I agree with, man.
Well, I think it. See, here's my problem with taking what Draymond, what he says about the Knicks is
Yeah.
that it's personal with Cat for
Yes.
whatever reason. And when he's talking about, I think he had a comment in there that said something like, "When guys don't want to play defense." Remember? Didn't he
Yes,
say
yes,
that?
yes. Yep, yep, yep.
Who's he talking
Of
about?
course.
You
Talking
know who
about
he's
Cat.
talking about.
Talking about Cat.
It's personal. And I think if I remember correctly, when he was supposed to go on your show, didn't he duck out?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So he's running from the smoke,
He
bro.
ran. Oh, he ran from the smoke. Absolutely ran from the smoke, man. So but that's that's history. That's the past, man. But
Yeah.
anyway, man. Hopefully we'll get the dub tonight. Safe travels back home when you leave out the Shy, man. Stay out of the streets, man. Stay out of Chirac. Don't go exploring too much, man.
On Halloween, bro, might get crazy out here.
On Halloween, there's a lot going on in the world, man. A lot of forces going on out there. So anyway, man, great job as always, and we appreciate the time.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep, anytime, man. All right, that was our guy, Stefan Bondy, of course, Knicks insider for the New York Post, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Like, share, and subscribe. What do we think? I don't like Draymond either. I'm with you guys. I'm not a big Draymond Green fan at all. I'm not a big. I can't stand the guy. But, especially when he's talking, hey, I think the offense and Mike Brown is taking some of that Golden State offense with them. We gotta figure this out. And it's early. I'm with everybody on the fact that it is very early. So I'm not panicked after the 2-2 start at all. I'm rocking with my team, hella high water. You guys know that. And it's the fifth. We're entering the sixth game of the season. Mama said there'd be days like this. I thought, one of the things I questioned, why this is why my win total, and this can all change. This is my win total was a little bit lower, especially it wasn't the 60 that a lot of people thought, because I thought there's going to be growing pains in the beginning, getting used to a brand new offense. And not only are they getting used to a brand new offense, but they're trying to get healthy. They didn't experience that in the beginning of the season last year. It was only Mitch and Deuce to a certain extent that wasn't there. So you got new players, new system, new injuries. Take time, man. Now, I'm going to be interested to see how they play tonight. Because Chicago's coming in 4-0. They're coming in like gangbusters. And, we're going to have to see how they respond out the gate. But one thing that was interesting that Jalen Brunson had said, and Steph talked about it with Josh Hart. Jalen Brunson mentioned the fact that Hart seems like he's kind of taking in the opinions of the fans to heart a little bit. No pun intended. So it's just like, man, bro, like stay, and these are young guys. They got the podcast and all of that. You can't really tell them to stay off of social media. This is the life of our generation. This is what we do. We scroll and we scroll and we scroll. And Josh is a guy, he engages with the fans and all of that. So, but according to Jalen, it seems like it's kind of getting to Josh. I mean, this was the quote right here. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. This was from Steph's article. This is from the captain, Jalen Brunson. This is one thing he does in terms of Josh Hart. When he's locked in, he's working on everything, and he's focused. It's a different Josh, and you've seen it, Brunson said. Says when we get back to it, it's just not listening to outside noise. When we get back to that, it's just not listening to the outside noise. The fans are talking or whatever, and it's impossible not to see it, but who gives a crap? People are going to say what they want to say regardless of if we're playing well or not. Well, the thing is, it's easy for the captain to say. It's easy for Brunson to say because he's shown so far in his time with the Knicks that he is very mentally focused and mentally tough. You cannot shake the captain. You cannot. You cannot rattle him. He's going to do what he does regardless. But Josh, on the other hand, it's a tricky fit. I'm not bailing on Hart, man. I don't like the conversations around Hart, man. We gotta rally around Hart. We need Hart. He's a glue guy. Still, we can't forget that. He is a glue guy. So let's remember that, especially when it comes to Hart. What do you guys think in the chat, man? Hit the like button, hit the share button. Subscribe to the channel. All right. Great show, man. Great flow. Shout out to everybody on the KFTV side. Shout out to everybody on the NBA Report side. Shout out to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D. $10 super chat on the NBA Report side says that ego comes, talking about Phil Jackson, that ego comes when you're filled to the gills with championships. Great point. Success does that to you. He shouldn't have taken the job. Absolutely agreed. And but we fans should have anticipated that ego coming from Phil Jackson. Yeah, I think so, Chuck. But I also think that we were so desperate during those times, man, to find. It's our savior complex. It's our savior trauma. Whether it's player, it's coach, it's GM, we're always looking for that silver bullet to fix all of the problems with this team. So even when the rumors were building up about Dolan courting Phil and Isaac Azoff and those guys and brokering the deal and, Dolan and Phil meeting at the barbecue and gauging the interest, there was always that allure, oh my God, can Phil, the Zen master, all the rings, can he change our fortunes? So I get it. Yeah, you certainly, the ego part, certainly I agree with. I just feel like in the beginning, speaking from my perspective, I was willing to overlook the ego and overlook even the inexperience that he was bringing to the job because of the cachet and the resume that he had. It was the prodigal son coming home, the 70s championship, and he's going to bring that in the ball movement. He's going to bring the rings that he won with Jordan, the rings that he brought with Shaq and Kobe, and he's going to turn this thing in. There's only one problem. You needed the players to buy in. And, Melo certainly deserves some of the blame there. It's hard to be coached, hard to play with. His own ego got in the way. And he had the clash of bulls. Clash of bulls, no pun intended. Especially they got Chicago tonight and they better win. So he had a clash of bulls. Let me shout out some of our sponsors of today's show, man. Shout out to our sponsors at DraftKings. Hey, listen, man, all of your favorite NBA players are back in DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is the place to be and the place to bet on NBA stars this season. New customers for you guys at home, bet $5 and get 3 months of NBA League Pass plus $300 if your bet wins, paid out in bonus bets. And that's using our code KFTV. So you go to DraftKings.com or you download the DraftKings Sportsbook, use our code KFTV, bet $5 and get 3 months of League Pass plus $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. Now, 21 and plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win. Your bet's got to win to receive the bonus bets, right? And it expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. NBA League Pass auto renews until canceled. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. All right, once again, this is a limited time offer. And also, we want to shout out one of our other sponsors, and that is Wayfair, man. Every style, every home. Shout out to our guys at Wayfair for endorsing our show and sponsoring our show. And listen, with the holiday time coming up, Wayfair has a ton of household items and furniture for you guys to decorate your home with the season's greetings, okay? So make sure you guys go to wayfair.com, check out the entire collection because they have a large amount of items over the summer. I purchased a lot of patio furniture and my grill from Wayfair, but now they've got the holiday decor. So whether you have bedding needs or you want to update your kid's room, you got some home decor, kitchen, living room essentials that you want to get, Wayfair is the place to go. All right, so get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, let me shout out some more people in the chat before we go. Okay, Zach, I see Will Latimer. Let's go. Shout out to Rich 4 MVP, Rich Miranda. I see you in here. Who else? We got Mellow Mike always in there. Shout out to Mellow Mike. And who else? I hope I didn't miss any super chats on the KFTV side. Hooper, we'll take calls tonight. I got a little technical difficulties on the Discord for right now, but we will get that addressed and fixed by post game tonight. So now for the Chicago game, CK2K will be on deck for play-by-play. So make sure you guys tap in there, and then myself and Alex will be ready to go post game live. Highlights, analysis, caller reactions, the whole 9 yards. You guys know the deal. All right, so there it is. Happy Halloween. I got to go set up the candy for the kids now. You know, it's Halloween. I have to, last minute, have to run to CVS, go get some stuff. So got to go set up the candy bowls. Leaving them outside, man. Don't ring my doorbell, man. I ain't trying to answer the door 50 times. So I don't know what you guys do at home, what the fellas do at home. I just dump it all in a bowl, put it outside, do what you do. And when it's gone, bring your bowl back inside, and that's it. I'll be ringing my doorbell talking about trick or treat. I ain't answering. Stephen Gomez. Oh, when we get in the KFTV bucket hat. Good idea, man. I'll look into that. Shout out to you, Stephen Gomez. Shout out to you. Once again, shout out to our sponsors at DraftKings and Wayfair. And great show earlier, man. For you guys on the KFTV side, head over to the NBA Report and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, man. We're trying to build that up. We had a great show earlier talking about the Wemby experience. Victor Wembanyama leading the Spurs to a 5-0 start. And shout out to my guest, Allen Sliwa, who came on to talk about the Lakers and the red-hot Austin Reaves. All right, so make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. And JJ said they dumping the whole thing in the bag. Yeah. You know, you got to leave that little note like, take one, I'm watching. But I'm really not watching. I just don't want you ringing my doorbell 100 times. So I ain't answering. I ain't got time for all of that. All right? All right, man. See y'all later. Great show. Thanks again for the support, man. Shout out to the family. Shout out to Stefan Bondy for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week on the NBA Report side. See you tonight on KFTV. #1 shows for the fans, by the fans. Peace.